what I realized? That I've never come on here and told you guys a crazy story time. So here comes my crazy story time as a hairstylist with a client that I had. This was a few years ago. So I was working like in a private suite area, and I feel like I was a little bit naive. I shouldn't have allowed this, or I should have realized something prior. But basically this lady had paid full on my website for the service. Like, she had prepaid before she came in. This is someone that I never have seen or had never taken, and so obviously I was kind of like weirded out by it, because people usually don't do that. Like, they just pay the deposit and then you pay at the end of the service. It was just weird, but I was like, whatever, like maybe that's just how she felt like she wanted to do things, so cool. I remember I spoke to her a little bit prior to the appointment. Okay, so I'm like remembering now. So I texted her and I was confirming the appointment. I think this was the day before, and I was getting weird vibes because getting a bad feeling. So I think I tried to cancel the appointment, and I was like, but I'm gonna give you your money back. And she was like, no, like don't give the money back. Like, she was very adamant about me not returning the money, I guess, back to the card holder. So I don't know how or what she did to convince me, but I just remember being like, okay, it's fine, just come in, whatever. So day of, she calls me when she's here at the suite, and the calls are coming in no caller ID. Okay, I like, the more I think about it, I'm like, I'm so like why did I think that that was okay? Like, I should have. This is like the beginning of when I started to get very strict with my clientele, because I started to be like, why am I allowing these weird things to happen? So she's calling me through no caller ID, and she had already texted me from like a different number. So I'm like, this is giving weird scammy vibes. My mind, I'm thinking, like, because of the way she was speaking to me, like when I had answered the phone, she seemed like such a nice girl. It's like, I don't know, like maybe she's going through something, she's having to be discreet, not sure, whatever. She comes in, she looks like the most normal person you could have ever like met. She looks like she's in her 30s, very normal looking, very sweet. Yeah, we do her color, we have the best conversation. She's telling me like about her life, she's telling me about her marriage, and she is going through like a lot of marriage problems. She was telling me like that she was going through like a domestic kind of violence situation, and so I was really, I don't know, I feel like we had connected, and I didn't think anything of it. At the end of the service, she was like, oh, thank you so much, like I'm gonna tip you, what's your Zelle, like, or whatever. I gave her my Zelle. I don't think she ever tipped me, but, and her service was already paid for. So then I was like, okay, so you're all set. The end. So she leaves. What do you guys think happened? A few weeks later, I get a message through my Square thing that a transaction has been disputed. So I was like, what? I tried messaging her because I knew exactly where it was from. I could see the card and the name and everything. And so then I was like, this is the same lady. And then the reason why it was disputed was because they were saying that they had never came in for the service, that they had never received the service, whatever. I texted her, no response. I called her, no response. I texted her like professionally. I'm trying to be like, was this a mistake? Like, what's going on? Did you not like your hair? No response, nothing. I tried to call, calls were going straight to voicemail. So yeah, I started to put two and two together that she definitely did scam me, and that she was using other people's cards. Because I'm assuming that the woman that the name was under never came in. That was a real person, and she never got her hair done with me, but she used this woman's card information. What's crazy is the day of her appointment, she told me that she had another appointment after this for her brows. So this girl was going and just like doing this for sure at different places. I end up getting my money back some way or another, thankfully. I move on from this, and then I think a few months later, I run into this girl at a restaurant. Me and my friend had gone and we were gonna go get lunch, and she was the hostess at this restaurant. I knew the manager of this restaurant because she was also a client of mine. And this lady, I see her on the phone, and I tell my friend, that is the same girl that tried to scam me or whatever. And so she was like, oh my gosh, are you gonna go say something? And I said, you know what, I am gonna go say something. I'm going to go and confront her. So that's exactly what I did. I walk up to the hostess stand, and she was on the phone, and she was like making like reservations for people. And the minute she saw me, you could tell like she was shook. Okay, she was shook. She was starting to like look nervous. She didn't know what to say or do, so she hangs up and she just acts like she doesn't know me. And I'm like, you don't remember me? And she was like, no. And I'm like, you literally scammed me. Like, do you know that I could literally get you fired right now for what you did? I was about to go and snitch because no, like, that's crazy. She just kept acting like she didn't know, and I was like, okay, so you're gonna pretend like you don't know, blah blah blah. Nothing really happened. I don't really care because I already got my money, and like, I wasn't trying to cause a scene. I feel like if I didn't get my money back, it probably would have been different, but whatever. My point was I wanted her to see me and to know that I knew. The manager ends up coming to see me at my suite to get her hair done a few months later. I tell her the story, and she is shocked because she had just fired this girl for stealing people's credit card information. So apparently she was taking a bunch of people in the system and she was like stealing their cards. She was doing this, and then I felt kind of guilty because I felt like I wish I would have said something sooner, because a lot of people probably could have avoided being in issues and like getting robbed or whatever. But like, I had always had this doubt and empathy for her that maybe she was going through something, whatever. But then I realized this girl's just a scammer. Like, this is what she does. And the funniest part is this girl tries to email me apologizing for everything, saying that it was a misunderstanding, and asking me if she could book another appointment with me. People have me shook. I didn't even see this email until like a long time after. I didn't respond, but it just made me laugh because I'm like, the audacity, the actual audacity of some people. That was probably one of the crazier things that had happened to me. I have other stories too. It doesn't happen to me often because I'm real strict. I run a real strict program around here, so yeah, crazy.
I'm in my work parking lot and everyone probably thinks I'm crazy, but my entire For You page this week has been nothing but paranormal stories. So I thought I would come on here and share a few of the paranormal experiences that I've gone through in my old house, and maybe the paranormal community can help me decipher what exactly was going on. So we move into this house in 2007. I am 4. I'm an only child. My mom and I are very close. My dad worked pretty much all the time, so it would just be my mom and I in the house. And when we moved in, stuff started happening. Stuff started getting really weird. Some examples that my mom has shared with me that I remember is I would be so afraid to be in the playroom. I had my playroom. I had like all these Barbie doll houses. I had all these beautiful Disney princess clothes. Like anything a kid could want, I was lucky enough to have. However, I was afraid to be in the basement. I was afraid to be in the playroom, so we would have to move all my toys upstairs, right? I could not go downstairs. I was too afraid to be downstairs. Lo and behold, my mom shares with me a few years ago that her treadmill was also downstairs, and she's on the treadmill. She's been feeling a weird energy in the house for quite some time, and this is the first time this entity made itself known. It was running past her on the treadmill, going into my playroom, out, in my playroom, out, and she was getting gusts of wind, right? That's crazy. She's not the only one that saw it that time, because it went upstairs, up the stairs. We had like a kitchen window looking out into the hallway. I know that's a weird concept, but some houses have it. My dad is standing there making his breakfast, and it's going up and down the hallway, down the stairs, up. I don't know. So there's that. Shortly thereafter, I am upstairs in the bathroom taking a bath, as a 5 or 6 year old does, playing in the bathtub, playing with bubbles, you know, haha. And I feel something odd, and I look to my right, and there is a floating black orb. I mean, like this big, like not little, like it was round, it was black, and it was just there. It was terrifying. Obviously I start screaming, I'm freaking out. My mom comes in and she sees it too. Great, awesome. So at this point, that's too much, you know, you're trying to take my kid now. I don't know. Along with that, my mom and I would be playing upstairs sometimes, and we would hear someone go, "Mommy, mommy," in my voice. Wasn't me, I was right there. Immediately, that's a mimic. That's a mimic right there. That's a demon. So all these things are happening. Finally, my mom one day gets off the treadmill. She's about to start her day, and she feels something burning. 3 scratch marks. She did talk to it told it, like, you got it, like, leave, get out. And it left, or so we thought. My theory is that bitch went up to the attic. And I'll tell you why I think that. Our house got lifted, which doesn't mean anything if a ghost can live on Gettysburg, you know what I mean? It can live in the open. It can still live in the home. My theory is whatever this entity was, it backed off and it went up to the attic. Our attic is one of those that you pull down, you go up the ladder, right? And, you know, my dad goes up there sometimes to get stuff. Every time he goes up to get something weird happens. I hate it. Every time I would come home and see the attic down, immediate dread. That pretty much sums up the stuff that would happen when I was younger. It, like, would have a problem with my mom. And then as I got older, I don't know why. I guess it started getting more ballsy. I never played with a Ouija board. I hate that shit. I don't do it. It started to not like me. So it doesn't mess with my mom no more. Then summer 2022, right? Didn't have my glasses on, didn't have my contacts in. I'm laying in my bed. I was out all day at the beach. I'm sunburned. It's nighttime. My door is cracked open like this. I kid you not. My door opens this much. And my mom pops her head in, right? Pops her head in. And I say, what? She just turns her head, which is weird because my mom loves to yap. So I'm like, what? Nothing. Keeps looking at me. I go, what do you want? Being a bitch, of course. And the door slammed closed. And I said, that was really mean that I just talked to my mom that way. I should go apologize. I go out to my mom. I say, sorry for yelling at you. Like, what did you want? Why were you in my room? I wasn't in your room. That was you, girl. I may have not had my contacts in, but I know my mom. Scariest moment of my life. Scariest moment of my life. What do you mean? What do you mean? My mom was genuinely freaking out. She got the holy water out, so I know she wasn't lying to me, right? Okay. There we go. There's that. There's been quite a few times in my bathroom downstairs that there have been odd handprints on the white door. And I don't mean little handprints. I have small hands. These handprints are huge. Literally huge. And they almost don't look human. It's scary. Trying to think of the only other stuff. There are footsteps. Like, there were footsteps. So the attic comes down. It goes in the hallway. And then our rooms are at the end of the hallway. The bathroom's right next to it. There would be a lot of times that I swear to God I heard my dad get up. Because I feel like when you live in a house with only two other people, like, you know, like, the footsteps. You know what I mean? I hear my dad get up, walk out of his room, onto the hardwood floor, flip the light switch on, as he would if he were to go to the bathroom, go get a snack. No, he gets up, switches the light switch on, walks into the room adjacent, walks out immediately after switch the light switch off, goes back and forth, and it sounds exactly like him. I know my dad's not doing that because I hear him snoring. I know it's not my mom. There's no one else it could be. Once again, it's a mimic. So, I don't know. I recently moved away, so I'm interested to see, God forbid, if it followed me. I hope it didn't. But yeah, so let me know what you think, paranormal community.
Good morning, everybody. We're gonna do a get ready with me while I tell y'all about the time that I spent an entire summer in high school on probation. Okay, so we'll set the scene first. It's 2021, second semester of my junior year of high school. The cart-demic in full fucking fledged, and bitch, that shit had my ass took. Also, I don't really know what I can say on TikTok and what I can't, so, like, just bear with me. I hope you can pick up on the lingo. So during this time, I'm at, like, the absolute rock bottom pit of my mental health. So I'm going through one of these, like, in 2 fucking days, like a full gram, right? I'd literally wake up, roll over, rip a blinker, wouldn't even give the day a fucking chance. And also, one thing to note that's important for later is I was at a really weird point in my academic standing because I was being overprescribed Addy and I was also overtaking it. So I had straight A's, but, like, I never went to school. I would literally, like, get to school. Oh my gosh, Alex, if you're seeing this, so sorry. Like every morning I would literally drive past the school, pause my location on Life 360, head over to the parking lot across from the high school and sleep in the back of my car up until like right before that you could go in without them notifying your parents that you were absent. Now, another thing about me is that not only do I know how to kiss ass, but I'm a very social and extroverted person, and I really just have that pull on people. So regardless of me being a terrible student, all of my teachers loved me and the principal loved me because of that being late every day. I would have to sit in silent lunch every day, but I would sit right next to our principal and just chat it up with him the entire time. Like I said, I was on so much that like all I want to do is just like yap all day, okay? So on top of that, I may have been bad, but one thing about me, I was sneaky, at least when it came to school. I had never been in trouble before. The most I had ever been in trouble my entire time in school was one time my freshman year. I got dress coded and couldn't find anybody to send me clothes, so I had to sit in ISS, and that was literally the only time that I'd ever been in trouble before. So one day during passing period, we're all packed in the motherfucking bathroom like a can of sardines, hitting our damn vapes, passing those kegs around like it was nobody's business as per usual. Like I said, I'm a big yapper, I'm very extroverted, so I'm standing there with my back like facing the door so I couldn't see who was coming in, just like running my mouth to this group of probably no less than 10 to 12 girls. And while I'm standing there talking with my vape in my hand, okay? Before I know it, some teacher comes up behind me, taps me on the shoulder, and is like, "You're coming with me." I didn't have time to think for a second. And it was at this moment that I knew that I was fucked. Because here's another thing. So you already know, I'm bad as hell. I'm on my fucking P's and Q's. I'm sneaky as hell. I'm not getting caught. I never slip. I never fall. This day I was slipping and falling, bitch, because I didn't wear a bra to school. And the thing was, we didn't have a male resource officer. So it was like kind of known that if you were to ever get searched, just put it in your bra because they couldn't like pat you down. And what you'd have to do is grab your bra and like pull it out. And obviously you just grab that shit with it. But anyways, it's the one fucking day I don't wear a bra to school, right? So not only do I have that in my backpack, but I also have my prescription medication listed earlier in Ziploc baggies in my backpack. Like, I'm so lucky that I did not get hit with like an intent to sell charge because, oh my God, that would have been terrible. So as I'm walking to the principal's office, I immediately text my stepmom. I'm like, "Alex, you gotta get your ass down to the school. I done fucked up. I need you to be here in 5 fucking minutes." And on the way to the principal's office, it's like probably a 2.5 minute walk. I went to a really small school. So on the way there, I'm like, "I really gotta go pee. You gotta let me pee." Cause I'm about to fucking flush that shit, do whatever I can. Like, I'm pulling out whatever strings. She's like, "Absolutely not. Like, you gotta come here." And I'm like, so I get into the office and I am nothing short of fucking fuming. Don't know who I was mad at, probably more myself, but of course I directed that anger towards the admin. And I had the worst attitude. Like, I was literally, I remember the SRO, he like grabs the yard and he's like looking and he's like, "What is this?" And I said, "What do you think it is?" I mean, he's going through my backpack, he's pulling out the bag of Addy, he's pulling out the yard, he's pulling out the vape. Like, oh my God. Like, at that point, I was ready to just 86 myself from life because at my school, we had a zero tolerance policy. So I'm fully like, well, shit, I'm about to get expelled for a year. I'm not going to be damn back at all because at that point, if I'd been expelled for a year, when I came back, it would have been the end of my senior year. So I'm just like, at this point, I'm about to accept my fate. Also, I remember literally being in the office and my principal being so disappointed in me because he loved me and like all of the admin in there fucked with me. And so they're all like, "Bitch, what the fuck?" Like, they're on the intercoms like, "Oh yeah, Plum's in the office. Like, she got caught in the bathroom." Ugh. So at this point, it gets to the time where obviously they want me to start snitching. They're like, you know, who else had a vape in there? Like, what was the names of all those girls in the bathroom? Blah, 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 blah. Obviously, I ain't no fucking snitch. And another thing to note is that I'm standing right next to my cousin when I was in the bathroom, who was my best fucking friend. And we were always together. And like I said, we go to a really small school. All of the admin and everybody knew that we were cousins and like we're always together because she was always getting in trouble. So like, I don't know. They they knew how tight we were. They were like, well, what about the girl standing next to you? Isn't that your cousin? You don't know her? And I was like, no, I've never met her. Like, I've never seen her a day in my life before this. And the shit that they were telling me in the office that they were going to hit me with was obviously like an MIP, and there was like some other bullshit. And they also tried to get me with like endangering minors. I can't even fucking remember. But it was some motherfucking bullshit. So finally, my stepmom comes and picks me up. They wouldn't let me drive my car home because they said I was probably too stoned to drive home. So my stepmom had to drive me home, and I had to leave my car at school all day. And I remember, and like I said, this is April Fool's Day. And I'm like, are you fucking shitting me? Like, this is the worst fucking prank ever. So anyways, I get home and I'm like, fuck, like, what the fuck am I gonna do now? Now, I wasn't as much worried about my parents as I was the state of Tennessee, because my parents are very much like natural consequence parents. My dad was like, you fucked up, you got this shit, like, get your ass ready to go to court. So obviously I'm grounded. I'm having to do a bunch of bullshit because I don't know why my dad couldn't just ground me like a normal person. Like, I'm having to go on walks and shit and like fucking write essays, all that bullshit. Another important note, about an hour later, one of my friends who happened to be one of our like starters or whatever they call it for the football team, and I went to one of those high schools that cared like way more about sports than academics. Like, you could be a football player and do fucking anything and get away with it there, as long as you were taking us to that state championship. So by the grace of God, I get a text from one of my friends, and he's like, yo, me and so another starter, just got caught in the bathroom. And I'm like, fuck yes. Because then in my head, I'm like, they're gonna let them off, so they have to let me off. Yeah, so anyways, I like have to go to the school, plead my case. Like, I remember putting in the fattest damn pearls I could find, wearing like some boutique shirt, and just going and trying to be like, I'm so sorry, this is out of my character, I would never do this. I pulled the mental health card. I'm like, I've been struggling, just trying to say anything, and did the same thing at the probation office. So I ended up getting on unsupervised probation, which was awesome. So they end up telling me that I can come back to school after like a week, but I have to do community service for the school. I have to do like this course on like, oh, why vaping's bad for you, and like all this other bullshit. But I'm not gonna lie, the community service I had to do at the school was lit, because we would just stay after school with the janitors, and our janitors at my school were like cool as hell. They didn't give a shit. And I remember the first day getting in there, I'm sitting in there with them waiting on them to tell me what to do, and they're like, what the hell did you do to get in here? Anyways, once again, I talked to all of them. They all fucked with me, so they didn't end up having to make me do shit. Same with my PO. Like, she was cool as fuck. I won her over, too, so I really didn't have to do much for probation. I did have to go, like, almost every Saturday for 8 hours, though, and, like, sort through clothes at my local thrift store. And I got to hang out with all the other badass kids who were on probation, so it was honestly kind of lit. Anyways, it took me all the way till the end of the summer to get clean, and I still barely passed my drug test at the end, and she let me go, so that was awesome. And that was the summer that I turned into an alcoholic. Anyways, thank God those charges dropped when I was 18, and I do not condone these actions, and if you're gonna do it, just be sneaky, okay? Be better than me.
Story time on how my ex-fiance of 6 years cheated on me and somehow ended up engaged to some new chick 2 months later. I will not be naming any names throughout this story, and if you know her or associate with her, you can get the hell off my page, because you are feeding into her narrative and her story and her lies. So, bye-bye! But now let's get into the story. So, we had been together for 6 years. She proposed to me after like 2 years of being together. We had pretty much gotten to the point where we were just gonna go get married at the courthouse, because unfortunately life was expensive and we just couldn't afford to go do like this big old grand wedding that we were talking about. And essentially that never happened. We never got there because she had aggression issues, anger problems, drinking and driving problems that kind of just put this really negative tension in our relationship. And essentially what led to this whole situation and the downfall of our relationship was she decided one night to drink and drive and put me and my best friend at the time in a very questionable position. So I packed my stuff and went to Pennsylvania for 2.5 weeks. During the 2.5 weeks that I was away, we had communicated, talked about the things that I personally needed in order to like continue with the relationship, therapy, couples therapy, just like certain things that like I no longer was going to tolerate and blah, blah, blah. We had gotten back together 3 days into my 2.5 week trip. 3 days. This is very important. 3 days. Okay. So we're on FaceTime and we're talking and we're texting and she's telling me how much she loves me and how much she misses me and how much she can't wait for me to come home and all this stuff and blah, 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 blah. Well, while we're on FaceTime 2 nights before I'm supposed to fly home, we're on FaceTime and I'm like, I see something on her neck, but I'm like, I'm delusional. Like, she wouldn't do that to me. Like, da 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 da. And there's a giant hickey. I'm talking giant hickey on her neck. And if it didn't require me to show her face, I would insert a freaking picture because I wish y'all could see this. It was freaking insane. Craziness. So I obviously lose my mind, lose my marbles, lose my goddamn shit. Okay? Lose my shit. So the 2 days goes past, she's trying to talk to me and tell me how much she loves me and da-da-da-da-da. And mind you, we have a weekend getaway planned in Michigan with our best friend at the time. And, you know, all this is planned because I'm supposed to come back and it's supposed to be a grand old time and this, that, and the third. Well, no, she cheated on me. So I come back to Wisconsin from Pennsylvania and we go to this little Michigan trip, blah, 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 whatever. And I'm like, you know what, like, me being the delusional ass person that I am, was like, okay, we'll try again. We'll work through this, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Well, that didn't last very long. About 3 days into me coming home, we broke up again. So after we broke up, there was a few weeks where I was just kind of like losing my mind. My mental health was not great. I was just not in a good place mentally. And she was doing what she can to like be there for me and support me. And like there was points during these like couple of weeks that I was not doing very good, that I was like considering maybe getting back together with her, because there was just things that I was noticing and seeing that I hadn't noticed before that were like green flags. And I was like, okay, like maybe she's actually like changing into a better person, genuine person. Well, the whole fucking time she was lying to me and talking to other girls and manipulating me, and still to this day is lying about how she cheated on me. Well, let's get to the point where now she's engaged, got this girl's name tattooed on her, and moved to a different state after meeting her twice. Okay, now the next part of the story is all alleged, because it's either from things that I've heard from other people or I've just like kind of seen on Facebook, which, you know, give or take, you know what I'm saying? So she goes on this trip to Florida at the end of May and comes back at the first weekend of June. While on her trip to Florida, she's pretty much like silent with me. She had texted me maybe once or twice, here and there, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then comes back from her trip to Florida with a huge bag of gifts for me. Jewelry, clothes, this, that, and the third, blah, blah, blah. And then supposedly met this girl that she's now dating on her trip to Florida. So she came back with a bunch of gifts, but started talking to this girl. Before that, important, think about that. So, I don't know when things kind of progressed with them. I don't really care, but essentially, I would say a week ago on Facebook, I see that this girl posts on her status that she's engaged to so-and-so, being my ex. And I'm like, interesting, it's only been like 2 weeks. Mind you, you've only met twice. Okay, so I have to cut out the last ending of that video because I accidentally said her name. But apparently, my ex flew this girl from Florida to Wisconsin to come and visit, blah, blah, blah. They stayed, whatever. During the time that she was here, her new girl reached out to me and was like, hey, can you tell me if your ex has contacted you or da-da-da-da-da, and like wanted me to fill her in on things that had happened with me and my ex in our relationship. And I told her all of these things, like terrible things that had happened in my relationship, and they're still dating. So it just kind of shows the character of both of them, you know what I'm saying? So they're probably a perfect match. But I found out 3 days ago or something that my ex was planning on moving to Florida with this girl that she had met twice. And then yesterday, I'd seen on social media that they got their both names tatted or whatever. And I'm just like, y'all are really showing how delusional you are. But it's just mind-blowing to me that, like, she's only met this girl twice and they're now engaged and have names tatted, and my ex moved to Florida. And I mean, there's a little bit of a backstory to that one too, because it's just mind-blowing that she would ditch her grandma, who's not in a good state of mental health or health at all, and just ditch her. But, you know, again, we're showing true colors and character and everything, so. But yeah, that's my story on how my ex-fiance of 6 years cheated on me and somehow ended up engaged 2 months later.
Story time of my worst first date. I've been waiting to tell this story for like a year or so, since October, but the guy from the date had said like, oh, I saw your TikToks at the end of the date, so I was like, oh, so I kind of just like waited and was like, I shouldn't post because he'll see it, but at this point, I don't care. I also have Pilates in 10 minutes, so this has gotta be okay. So there was this guy who DM'd me who like had gone to my college. We were both post-grad a few months, but like I didn't know him, but we were literally like the same major, which is really weird that we didn't know each other. I'd never seen him. Also, he was in a frat that like I knew the most people from that frat, so it was like weird that I was like, I've never seen you before, but whatever. I was a transfer student, so I was like, you know what, I just don't know everyone, it's fine. Basically, he DM'd me and I was like, okay, he still lived in Orange County, I lived in LA. Orange County is where our school was, but he was like, no, it's fine, like I can come up, that's fine. I was like, okay. Then he basically made it seem like, oh, I just happened to be up here because like I'm picking up something from my friend's house who lives in LA, and he lives in downtown. So I was like, okay. Downtown was like not where I lived, but it wasn't too far from where I lived. So I was like, okay, do you want to meet like by your friend's house then? He's like, yeah, okay, like let's meet there in downtown, which if you know anything about downtown LA, it's kind of like, okay, like maybe not the best place to meet, but whatever. He didn't plan anything, which I was already annoyed over. He was like, well, I don't really know the spots, like you live there, do you want to pick somewhere? I'm like, it's so funny because you have Yelp and Google Maps, so you could find somewhere, but whatever. I suggested this night market in LA, which I had only been to once, like literally 4 years before, and it was like popping, like when I went, it was like a weekend. And then he was like, sure. And then I also suggested like these cute rooftop bars. Downtown has really cute rooftop bars, and I was like, there's like these places with like food. I was like, there's also, it's food or like drinks or whatever. I suggested like 3 places, but he picked the night market. So I was like, whatever, like, okay. I don't remember if I didn't let him pick me up or what happened, but basically we met there, okay. And he just kept making all these comments that just pissed me. Okay, at the time I was working at a law firm. Mind you, he was also a poli-sci major. He worked at a court. So like it was not surprising that like I don't even, basically I was working a lot at the time, and it was a weekday, and I was like, yeah, I had just come from work. And he was asking me like about like what I did for fun. He was like, so do you like have any hobbies? Do you do anything, or do you just work all the time? And I was like, what? And I don't even know if he meant it in a rude way, but I was like, do I just work? Like, of course I have a job. I have the same degree as you. You're mad that I'm using my degree when you are also using your degree? Oh, I forgot. So at the night market, if you know, there's a bunch of like little like kiosks, think like the Orange County Fair or something, but like in a tiny area. And I was like, okay, we did a lot, but like there's tacos, there's like ramen, like what do you want to get? And he's like, oh, are you like hungry? I'm sorry. This is a date. Also, now in hindsight, I only pick like the most bougie restaurants ever for dates, but you live and you learn. And I'm like, well, yeah. And he's like, oh, okay, I thought we were just doing like dessert, but like if you want to get something, like totally. And I was just like, no, like I'm not gonna like force, like I'm not gonna eat if you're not eating. So we literally just got like ice cream, and I think he got a cup size small, and I was like, okay, I thought you were a man, but whatever. Anyway, whatever. He was like nice. Like, then later on, I was talking about my friend, and I was like, yeah, like she's so slay. She works in finance. Like, she's such a girl boss. I don't know how she came up. It was relevant somehow. And he was like, a girl boss? You want to be a girl boss, huh? And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? Like, it was such like in a way of like, oh, you want a job. Like, yeah, I work at a law firm. I was literally working at a law firm as a paralegal at the time. So like, okay. And I was just like, okay. The cherry on top. There's a lot of things he said. This is the last thing I like remember. I also have Pilates in 6 minutes, so I need to wrap it up. Basically, we're talking about running, and I was like, yeah, like I like to, oh my god, there's even more. I remember. Oh my god. First of all, I was like, yeah, like I like running a lot. I do running and Pilates. And he's like, oh yeah, like you seem like you're in pretty like average shape. it was either average or decent. I'm like, are you kidding, babe? Also, you're not all that. Like, you're the one that swiped up to my stories being like, you're so gorgeous, you're so gorgeous. Like, but now in person, you can say I'm averagely in shape. Like, you were not all, he was probably like 5'10". Like, I'm sorry. Then, we're talking about running. I was like, yeah, like, I really like running. Like, I could see myself doing like a half marathon one day. And he was like, oh, I could never do that. And I was like, oh, okay, like, you don't run? And he's like, well, like, I don't like to half-ass things. And he proceeds to say he would only do a full marathon, not a half marathon. 13 miles, are you saying I'm half-assing something? Okay. Then we're talking more. I was like, oh yeah, I used to go to Newport Run Club. Did you ever go? And he's like, oh yeah, I went one time before, but like I couldn't even finish the run. It's 3 miles. It's 3 miles. When I went to Run Club, there was a lot of times I did like the 5-mile option. And he couldn't even finish the 3-mile option. So that means he doesn't even run. But he's saying he would never half-ass something and do only a half marathon. And I'm half-assing when that's all I remember at the moment, but it was just so many little comments. Like, I don't even think he meant it in a rude way, but I was just like, I didn't even kiss him. And after he tried to hang out again and I was like, I'm busy. Like, I was just like, you don't like women. You don't like women. So, yeah.
Get ready with me for the day while I tell you guys about how my dad basically called the cops on me and my sister. To be fair, he didn't know he was calling the cops on us, but yeah. And my sister could have went to jail. Okay, so if you have any siblings, like, especially siblings the same gender as you, you know that, like, do not get along. Like, earlier years, like, kid years, we did not get along. Fought every single day. Even, like, when I was, like, 11, 12, and my sister was, like, 13, 14, like, we still did not get along. I guess it's because I was always tattle on her, but, like, still, like, we did not get along. And so, basically, this year, or, like, last year, we just started to get along. Okay, so it starts off, I was out of town on, like, a solo trip, basically, not solo, but, like, no parents were there, neither was my sister, it was just me and my friends. We were, like, at a volleyball camp out of town, you know, and, it was the day I got back. I get home, and I, like, heard footsteps upstairs, and I didn't know if anyone was home, because, like, I just got home. I didn't know if my parents were home, my sister. I just assumed it was, like, my mom or my sister. So, I went upstairs, I unpacked my stuff, you know, I realized my sister was in the bathroom, and nobody else was home, and the footsteps sounded like they were above me. So, I just kind of, you know, shook it off. Thought it was my cats or something. I come to find out later it was not my cats. So I'm kind of just like, get home, shower, you know, I haven't had like a nice good shower in a few days. Because we were like timed in the showers. We were in dorms. So I get home, I shower, I change. Then I go downstairs and I'm on the phone with my friend and I see that the back door's open. And I'm like, oh. The back door is open, and I was like, you know what, I bet my sister snuck somebody in, because I realized we were home alone, you know, like, that's the type of person I am, to, like, or that's the type of person she is, like, she sneaks people in, so, you know, I was like, I bet she snuck someone in, and I was on the phone with my friends, they were, like, just kind of laughing and stuff. I think my parents were at the bar, and then, like, my sister was in the basement watching Love Island. I never went down there, because, like, you know, I didn't have a reason to. And all of a sudden my parents get home and like I'm sitting on the couch eating because like I was hungry and the back door's still open, so I'm like, oh shoot, like it's not closed, did he get out? And so apparently he was still in the basement and my sister hid him in the storage room. And my dad went downstairs to watch a show, so like they're both in the basement and he's in like the thing. Keep in mind, our storage room is, like not finished. Like, there's no floors, and the walls are still, like insulation. So, oh my god. My sister, I guess, opened the window, tried to sneak him out, while my dad went upstairs to change, but it didn't work, so we went back downstairs into the storage room again. And my sister left the window open, and the cat got out. Just had to add that in there. And then I guess so like we have like these small windows where it's like they're only at the top because like I don't know why they're there, but like they're small windows. and it's like this big, and it's at the top of the wall. And I guess he tried to climb the wall and go out the window, and obviously you can't climb insulation. The insulation ripped, and he fell. And like, it's a storage room, like there's stuff everywhere. He fell, and everything just like made a noise. And obviously my dad's on the other side of the wall, and like you can hear everything because there's a vent right there, so he definitely could hear it. So my dad like went in the storage room and found him and like grabbed him by the thing, and like there have been people breaking in cars and like around our neighborhood, so like that kind of saved us in the moment. So my sister, I guess, was in her room, and she like walks downstairs and was like, what's all this commotion, you know? I actually got it on video. I was making a get ready thing, and I got it on video. And so my dad was like, who is this, Bella? Who is this? And she was like, I have no clue. I have no clue who that is. Keep in mind, my sister had just gotten a lot of trouble for sneaking boys in to her friend's house, and they stole stuff. So let me know if you want a story time on that. So my dad's like yelling at my sister, and then she asked the kid, she's like, what's your name? And like he said, like, I guess a fake name, I think. And then he was like, who invited you here? And he was like, nobody that you know, or something like that. My dad was like obviously yelling at him because like, yeah. Okay, this story time might be a little long, but whatever. And then my dad called the cops because we told him it was a break-in, like a robbery. They were trying to rob us or something. And I never saw the guy. I don't know how old he looked, but like I don't know how they believed us. And then the cops get there, and they're like asking a bunch of questions, and they like pull me to the side, and they're like, did you sneak him in? And I was like, no, like I can't get away with that shit, like no. And then the guy was like, do you know anyone that looks like him? And I was like, oh God, the cops were being so rude, like just straight up rude. And I was like, I mean, he looks like this guy that I know, but like he just got a buzz. Like, I don't know. I don't know why I said that. And then they were like, oh, so you know what he looked like? And I was like, no, I don't know what he looked like. But just by the description. And he was like, oh, so he looks like someone you know, or you don't know what he looks like? And I was just like, I don't know what he looks like. These bronzing drops are so patchy. I'm gonna have to use some of this. Ew. Is this like expired? Does moisturizer expire? Okay, that didn't even out. I don't know what. Okay, and then they were just being straight up rude, and they were like, okay, so what's gonna happen is we're gonna go find this guy, we're gonna ask him, and if he has proof that when you invited him over, like, you guys are gonna go to jail for a waste of police time. And it's like, obviously I'm scared out of my mind, like, because I knew I didn't do it. I knew that I wasn't gonna go to jail, but my sister, I knew that she'd done it. So, okay, and wait, where did I leave off? Oh yeah, so I may have cracked under the pressure. And I was like, it was my sister, like, after an hour of that, and it was just kind of embarrassing. And they were also telling us, they were like, you have until the fingerprint scanner, the detectives show up to confess. I was just like, what the hell? But, you know, everything ended up being okay. She got grounded. But she only got grounded for like a week, so. If you guys watch the end, make sure to give me a follow, because yes, so I can keep posting more like this, because I'm already like I want to make a get ready to make out, but I don't, because I don't want to get flamed at school. So I'm already not really liking the idea of it. So if you guys want me to keep posting, make sure to drop me a follow. And if you made it this far, comment the sun emoji. Bye guys.
I went on a first date last night, and this morning I woke up and deleted all apps. That's how it went. He didn't get any wine. He also didn't pay for my wine. So I went on my first date last night after like taking a 3-month break from dating and from just men in general. A little context. I am divorced. I have been separated from my ex for basically a year now at the end of this month. I have dabbled in dating, But like, I don't know, I'm getting really discouraged. I hate the feeling of wasting my time. I hate the feeling of wasting my energy and wasting my time on somebody that isn't necessarily worthy of it. And that's not to say that the guy I went on a date with last night was a bad person or anything. It was a very fine date, interview style date. And I don't know, I'm feeling very discouraged. I'm feeling really weird about it. We met at a wine bar, one of my favorite little wine bars near my apartment. I got literally one glass of wine, like $16, and I paid for it myself. So that initially I was like, all right, we're not doing this. This is not going well off the bat. We sat there for 1 hour or so, like chatted. I also, like, not to sound like so conceited, but I know what I offer. I know what I bring to the table. I have a great career for myself. I have my own apartment. I have my own life that is very fruitful and very fulfilling. I have amazing friends. I love my family. Like, everything in my life is great, and I'm very confident in everything besides having a partner. That's something that I want very deeply, but it's also something that I'm not willing to compromise for. I'm not willing to settle because I've gone through that, and we're not doing that again. And honestly, I'm at the point where I would be totally fine just like being alone, because I love being alone. I love my space and my own time and my little routine and my hobbies. I just signed up for another pottery course for next month, for August. And I'm so fulfilled in every other aspect of my life. But honestly, at this point, I am going to delete dating apps because I'm just over it. I'm so fucking over it. I can't tell you how many first dates I've gone on and nothing happens. I've tried younger, I've tried career-oriented men, I've tried guys with like a really cool lifestyle. Like, I don't know. I'm just so over it. I went on my first date after 3 months of no dating. I felt like it was a complete waste of time. And I was really sad that I wasn't in bed by 9 p.m. getting my full 9 hours of sleep. But I had to rip the Band-Aid off. I had to get out there again. I just am feeling very discouraged about it all. So that's where I'm at with dating.
Guys, story time on the time I got arrested because I lied to my parents. For context, me and my parents are actually pretty good now. This happened a couple months back. They just keep an eye out on me more now. I snuck out my house and I took my car, my family car, so everybody shares that car, and I took that car. Dad has a habit of whenever he gets up in the middle of the night, he just looks out the window, and his window directly stares right down at our driveway. My dad woke up to use the bathroom. He looked out his window as usual. He saw that the car was missing. He woke my mom up right away. He kind of just started going crazy because obviously like the car's not in the driveway. This was around the time that car stealing or car robbery, whatever it's called, was at an all-time high. So my dad was obviously like keeping a lookout on our driveway much more than he usually would. My mom woke up and she texted the family group chat right away asking if anybody had the car. I just acted like I was asleep because I saw the message, but I didn't respond. I didn't want to out the fact that I snuck out. Also set up my bed in a way where I had a wig sitting at the top so my parents could see my hair and my body was under the blanket. Others were up at this point and they said that they didn't have the car. Nobody woke me up. They assumed that I was asleep. They called the cops. Cops came, they pretty much took information down about the car. They took the license plate, the make, the model, everything. They started looking for it. I was still in the city, so a cop nearby, I actually literally saw the cop nearby. I guess when the report went, cops alerted that here's the car right here. I was on Streetsville. I should not have said that, but I was on Streetsville. Cops pulled me over. I thought I was speeding because I do speed when I drive. No, I don't. I do not speed. I'm getting the license and registration ready because I thought that that's what they're going to request, but instead the cops asked me for my ID and then asked me to step out the vehicle, and I was pretty confused, but I obviously complied, confused more than anything because I had no idea that you would have to step out your vehicle for speeding. I thought that's for like if you're impaired driving or whatever. So I was kind of like confused. Asked me if the car belonged to me and I said yeah, but they basically told me that the car was reported stolen and I was going to be taken into custody until the owners came to pick it up. At that point, it clicked in my head when my parents texted the group chat. I'm like, okay, so they called the cops. I couldn't really explain that to the cop. I got handcuffed. I was taken to, not jail, but they basically took me to a holding cell. My parents came to pick up the car and everything. To their surprise, I was there. I was obviously yelled at. I'm a brown girl. I'm legal age, obviously, so my parents were asked if they want to press any charges. Obviously, they said no, but they were really upset with me, rightfully so. They asked if they could just leave it at that. So my parents were able to take me home. I got the craziest lecture of my life. My parents grounded me for a month and they did not speak to me. My dad didn't speak to me for quite some time, actually. And then we obviously got over it because we're family. Rest assured, my parents have my location now. They definitely take a look at my room time to time. Not all the time. They did have like a phase of like looking into my room for like a week to make sure I was actually in bed. But they have my location now, so it's not really a problem much. And I'm not going to try anything sneaky anymore because the cops got involved last time. But that's pretty much it. This entire sneaking out trip was all for coffee. I wanted coffee and I got arrested for coffee. Honestly, this was all a lie. I just am bored at work and I made this up. Cool story though.
Everyone wants a story time, so let's do one. I guess I just feel like airing my dirty laundry on TikTok today. I caught him cheating on me multiple times throughout our marriage, but obviously we always stuck it out and worked on it together. If you know him, then you know that he travels for work. But that obviously doesn't work in a marriage that has no trust. So I told him he needed to come home if we were going to continue to work on things. And so he did. It worked for a little while, and then he said it wasn't working anymore and he needed to go back to traveling for work. It started out as he was going to come home every Wednesday and every weekend because he was working Monday through Friday and he was only like an hour and a half away. So it wasn't far for him to drive. After I told him I was pregnant, things started escalating very quickly, and he eventually stopped coming home on Wednesdays, and he really didn't want to come home on the weekends either, because he didn't want to put miles on his truck. I also wasn't allowed to even talk about being pregnant for the first month. I wasn't allowed to talk about baby names or anything because he said he was afraid that it wouldn't stick. And looking back, I realized, no, he was definitely afraid that it was going to stick and he was going to end up having a baby with me. And I don't think he ever planned on or wanted one with me. Fast forward a little bit. At 26 weeks, I'm put on hospital bed rest. And I think he came to see me twice in the 2 weeks that I was there. Mostly my mom came to sit with me. I can even remember him saying, I'm gonna go to the bar tonight, but I feel bad because you're stuck in a hospital bed. Well, you don't feel that bad if you're still gonna do it. Fast forward until the end of my pregnancy, a week before I have my child. He's been spaced out for months, hasn't really felt like he was even a part of our relationship anymore for months, and so he gets passed out drunk and I go through his phone. I truly was not expecting to find what I found. Okay, so I go through his phone and I very much was not expecting to find what I found. He had social media accounts that I didn't know about. He was messaging hundreds of women asking for their cash apps, asking for them to send him pictures. I mean, just random women. That's embarrassing enough as a man to just be messaging random women, asking for their cash app and asking for pictures, especially when you have a pregnant wife at home though. I mean, he was telling people he loved them, he was going to move them into his camper so that they could live together. At one point, one of the women actually asked, what are you going to do about that baby? And he said, what about it? At the time, I was a week from delivering my daughter, so I decided, let's just deal with this after. And I decided to focus on her and getting her here safely, and then we would talk about it again after.
So when she's about 3 weeks old, I'm letting him see her. I tell him, you know, I'm not going to interfere with his relationship with her, but I'm going to leave him. At that point, he decides to take a job thousands of miles away in another state. At first, we stayed in contact. I was sending him pictures, being very cordial, until someone came and spoke to me and gave me information that made me feel like she would not be safe around him. I don't feel like it's my place to speak on that, so I'm not going to, but just know that I didn't feel like he would be safe around a minor girl anymore. So I tell him that. I say, I don't feel like this is safe anymore. Let's go to court, get custody straightened out, and figure this out there, and stop communicating. He literally just says, okay. But then I go to file the divorce paperwork, and my divorce lawyer says, you can't, because he filed for bankruptcy. And if you didn't know, now you know, you can't file for child support, divorce, anything while the other person is in a bankruptcy. From that day, when she was maybe 5 weeks old, he has not asked about her. He has not seen a picture of her that I know of, unless someone is sending them to him, which I'm sure they are. He doesn't know what she's allergic to. He doesn't know what size diapers she's in. He doesn't know anything about her. And truthfully, I was mad about it at first, but now I'm so thankful because now I know what I know. So yeah, I think that about sums it up. Okay, this is the third and final part, I promise. I've never done a story time before, so forgive me. I keep remembering things that I should talk about. Our bills were not being paid while he was actively asking women for their cash app. I was on bed rest, so I obviously couldn't work. And he was constantly asking me, when can you go back to work? When can you go back to work? When are you going to start making money? Can you work from home? Meanwhile, he is getting so drunk at the bar with his girlfriend and his friends that he doesn't wake up in the morning. At one point, I even had to call the hotel that he was staying in and ask them to go wake him up so that he wouldn't get fired for missing work and not calling. And this happened multiple times while I was pregnant on bed rest. I would call him sobbing, begging him, please wake up, and he would not wake up. He would miss work. Just to give you an idea of the way he treated me, whenever I called him the day that I got released from bed rest, which was like 36 weeks, they said I didn't need to be on bed rest anymore, and I was happy and excited that I had made it that far in the pregnancy and that she was happy and healthy. And I called him, and in the parking lot, I'm so excited, and I say, I'm not on bed rest anymore. I'm cleared. I'm good. He says, can you go back to work? That was the first thing he said. Needless to say, I spent 10-15 minutes sobbing in the parking lot. Instead of being super happy, I was upset that why would that be the first thing that he would say to me? And honestly, there's a lot more situations like that, but that's all that I can remember right now. And I'm not going to make a part 4.
Okay, story time on the worst temping experience I've ever had. So first off, I get to this office and I booked it because it was really close to where I live. So I was like, okay, I'll just go here today. None of the other offices that I usually go to were needing a shift covered that day. So I show up and it's not clear what door I go in, first of all. So I go like around to the back and it's like apartments. I almost walk into someone's apartment. And I'm just so confused and overwhelmed because there's nothing more stressful than showing up to a temp shift and not knowing where to go. Like no instruction, nothing. So I get there, I finally find the door, and you have to buzz in to be like let in, which like whatever. So I get there and I am immediately like led to the break room, and I put my stuff down and I just start noticing like different signs on the wall of just like the different rules and regulations that they have posted for like the staff and everything. And it was just weird. Like, you know when someone's a boss and they let everyone know they're the boss to the point where they just start making little nitpicky rules for everything? That's exactly what this office was. And the doctor was so power hungry to the point where it just, like, you can tell everyone was scared of her. No one there liked their jobs. And it just made me really uncomfortable. I'm gonna put pictures of the signs that were in the break room because they were crazy.
Like, when I tell you that you would have gotten yelled at if you didn't use a coaster underneath your coffee in the break room, you would have gotten screamed at. Just pause to read those because I literally went like.
And then after that, I get to my op, and they have my schedule. I only have one column, and they give me an assistant, which, like, with one column, you don't really need an assistant. All of my appointments were pretty straightforward. Like, I didn't have a single SRP. I had, like, an hour for kids, which, I mean, that's great. That's plenty of time to do everything that I needed to do. The assistant wanted to do all of the x-rays. She wanted to do all that. She took my notes for me. So they had a really, really outdated version of Dentrix that no one knows how to use it but their office. So she didn't even let me take my own notes. So she wrote stuff down and then signed it with my name and RDH. She's an assistant and she's signing notes that she took with my name and RDH. I thought that was so weird. She's on my case all day about stuff that I'm doing. She doesn't even let me, like, talk to my own patients. Like, she's like updating the health history, all that, and I'm like, I can do this. Like, it's easier for me to just seat the patient. It's easier for me to sit down and talk to them, get to know what's going on, what they need. But she wasn't even letting me come in the room. She was just like, I got it. I was like, okay. And so she kept on just yelling at me for really random things. Like, I just remember the point that I got to was I was taking blood pressure on the right side of the patient because I sit on the right side. And this was towards the end of the day. This was the first blood pressure I got to take because she was taking it all day. And I got to the point I was like, just let me do this, please. And she walks in the room in front of the patient and goes, we never take blood pressure on the right side. It's always the left side. And I straight up sat there. I was like, I have always taken blood pressure on this side. I was never taught any different. I've taken 5 separate board exams. I promise you I'm licensed to do this. I don't need you nitpicking everything. I said that. And she kind of just stopped after that. But then she came in and she kept before the doctor would come in and do the exam, which I waited forever. That's extremely frustrating. She would be like, okay, start putting your instruments up. The doctor hasn't come in to do the exam. The doctor needs the instruments. And someone needed, like, their lingual retainer rebonded, so I was like, okay, usually that's, like, a same-day treatment. Like, yeah, that's something that takes, like, a really short time. So I was like, okay, like, the doctor will probably want to bond this back on today. Like, this has been broken a really long time. And the assistant is, like, listening to all my conversations. And she walks in and interrupts and is like, no, we're not gonna do that today. And she's like, I was like, girl, just let me, like, talk to them and the doctor. Like, I've got this. And then the doctor comes and she's like, just put fluoride on. I was like, okay, whatever. So I put fluoride on. The doctor comes in to do their exam and they're like, oh, you already have fluoride on your teeth. I can't bond this back on. The assistant just told me to put fluoride on because you weren't going to do it today. Like, there was just so many communication differences. And they also gave me a headset. You had to ask to speak to anyone in the office before you said anything. You had to be like, hey, are you able to listen to me right now? That's literally what I had to say. And you had to wait till I responded to say anything. The earpiece was killing my ear because I had, like, 5 different cords going on with my loops and everything. It was just not a good experience at all. I hate going to those temping shifts and you get micromanaged to the point where they treat you like you don't have a degree. And this office already did not have great reviews on Clipboard because they're newer at Clipboard. And I think just some offices don't understand that you cannot treat a temp like they're your full-time staff. Like, there's not enough time for us to learn all your little quirks that you guys do, and that's just completely unfair to everyone involved. Like, it just made for a really hectic, stressful day. I will not be going back to this office. The assistant was not nice. She was just so overbearing, and the doctor was not nice either. She was just loved being the boss. She didn't care for my input on the patient that I just saw for an hour. And I think that's just really frustrating as a hygienist, because we go to school for all of this stuff, we're certified and all this stuff, and then you go to these offices that the doctors ask you first thing when they walk in the room, hey, what's going on, what'd you see, what do you think? And then you go to these offices and the doctor doesn't even look at you, and you're there to help them. This office had 2 people quit, which I think is also a red flag when a whole bunch of hygienists leave at the same time. But anyway, bad experience, but that's a good thing about temping, is I just won't go back.
Okay, I'm going to tell a story that I wanted to tell for a long time, but I haven't because it is exhausting. Have you seen the movie Just Married with Brittany Murphy and Ashton Kutcher? It's sort of like that, except it's way worse because it's completely true, and it's not about our honeymoon, it's about our journey to the altar. So, December 2015, I get engaged when I'm home in Park City, Utah, where I grew up. We take some time during that trip to go look at venues because I knew I wanted to get married in Park City. I always wanted to. We decide that we would like to get married at the St. Regis in Deer Valley. Father of the bride says, this is what you want, it's your wedding. The world is your oyster. You like St. Regis? Excellent. Yes, let's do it. So he puts down the deposit, he holds the date, December 3rd of 2016. I wanted to be a Christmas bride, so that was the plan. We send out save the dates in the next month or so, and they go out to like 250 people. I have a really big family on my mom's side. We had a lot of people we loved, and I wanted everyone to be there. So save the dates are out. I want to skip now to mid-July 2016. We've been working with the venue over email and phone calls, planning this wedding, and it was time to do a menu testing. So Mike and I fly back out to Park City in July, and we go do this tasting, and right before we leave, I had a weird vibe. My dad didn't want to go with us to like the venue walkthrough and the tasting, and I was okay, fine. But I just had this weird feeling, and we get an email before we leave from someone in the finance department of the St. Regis saying, no payments have been made on the venue since the initial deposit in January, and they assume that we are not planning to get married there. And guess what? They are suing my dad. They're suing my dad because he's the one who had the contract for $50,000. Why? Because it's too late for them to book that day, December 3rd, by mid-July. So they're gonna lose the money. It's too late to book another wedding. No one's gonna book it that close. So they're going to lose money for the venue for that day. So my dad not only had not been paying, he didn't tell me because he didn't want to let me down. He was a brilliant man, but he was not without his flaws, right? This was a big oops, couldn't tell you. I understand why he didn't. I wish he had, but he did not. So I have a freaking meltdown. So I was so embarrassed. I had sent out all these save the dates. Now we had no wedding venue, no plan. I was devastated. I was super angry, caused a big rift in my family. And I was locked and loaded at Monique Lillier with the dress that I had picked out. I'd already paid for half of it at that point, I think, and this dress cost me as much as a car, okay? I don't know what I was thinking then, but that's what mommy wanted, and that's what I was getting, okay? So I have this beautiful dress. I'm in the middle of getting alterations done,
and no venue. Okay, sorry, I had to get a footrest. So at this point, I make this my mother's problem. I can't do this. I can't call all these people and tell them the wedding's canceled. I'm horrified, I'm embarrassed, I'm devastated. My mom's a hero. She handles it. I don't know what she said. She handles it for me. And then another month, maybe 2 months goes by, and she calls me one day and basically says, so we have family who live in England. She basically calls and says, hey, we have family connections to a hotel in Verona, Italy. We can go, we can bring some people, we can stay there, we can get married there. And for some reason, I was just like, okay. I had been to Italy a handful of times, but I'd never been to Verona. It felt a little bit weird going somewhere that I'd never been before, that we had no connection to, but I said yes, and we ended up inviting a total of 22 people. I had exactly one friend there, my best friend Megan, and Mike had exactly one family member there, his mom. That's just how it worked out. So 22 people, we're all set. Verona, let's go. Okay, fast forward. It's getting to be the time where I need to get the dress to Verona. So I call Delta, and at this point I was working for Bumble. I was traveling nonstop. I was like a platinum medallion member of Delta at this point. I call them and say, can I bring my wedding dress on the plane? And do you know what they say? If you want to bring your dress on that plane, you can buy it a seat. Okay. Well, that's not happening. So, and I'm not checking it, which we'll later find out was a great idea. So I go back to Monique Lillier and I say, well, we're gonna ship the dress. So fast forward to, it's about a week before the wedding. I ship the dress. Surprise! That'll be $900. Okay, well, I thought it would be expensive, but no. All right, fine. The dress is on its way. We get packed, you know, all the little last minute things, and it is 2 days before we are supposed to fly out to Verona. I wake up and I had 10 missed calls, so did my mom. It was the concierge in Verona at the hotel. This woman's also a hero. She had been frantically calling us overnight because customs had gotten a hold of her, and they basically said they're holding this dress. They put, like, I think it was a $3,500 tax on the dress because I'm not sure exactly what happened, but they marked it as like a good to be sold, not for personal use. Even though it's my fucking wedding dress, I'm not bringing it there to sell it. It was whatever. So she freaks out. They basically said, pay up or you're not going to have this dress. So this woman, bless her soul, pays out of her own pocket to save the day. And she did. So we almost didn't have the dress. Dress gets there. I pull out cash that I'm going to get changed over and give to her. So now it's the day, we're leaving, it's time to go. Flying to Verona, baby. Wedding's in 48 hours. I check in with my husband and my sister. We all checked in under like my Delta account, right? So all the bags were together. I had 3 suitcases. Everyone else had 1, I think. And off we go. All right, we meet my mom in Rome, and then we fly to Verona, and it's this little airport. And we're having a jolly old time. We're in a great mood. Everyone's laughing. We're waiting for the bags to come off, and we're getting our bags. And all of a sudden, the little conveyor belt stops, and I look down. Mom has her bags. Husband has his bags. Sister has her bags. I have 1 bag. Where's the other 2? They're not there. Okay. Cue a meltdown. We go to, you know, this little desk that they had there, and we're like, help, I need this for my wedding. It's like, it's half of my wedding stuff. And we were going straight to our honeymoon in Europe for 2.5 weeks after that. Like, I need my shit. They're like, we'll open a case for it and we'll let you know. Okay, great. So we go to the hotel. I call Delta. Delta, again, they say to me that the suitcase, this is the fault of their partner airline, Alitalia, that we got onto in Rome. And I say, don't you track this? And they were like, when it switches over to Alitalia, they take all of the Delta tags off and they do their own tracking. I call Alitalia. They say, your wedding dress could be, or not your dress, your luggage could be in Washington or Egypt. We don't know. It's gone. We'll call you when we find it. Okay. So I have nothing that I need, and I'm gonna have to make part 2. Okay, this is part 2 of my wedding disaster story. If you didn't see part 1, go watch that first and then come back. Where we left off, I've landed in Verona. I'm missing 2 out of 3 suitcases and no one gives a flying shit, okay? Forgot to mention, when we got to the airport in LA, I realized I didn't have the envelope of $3,500 cash for the concierge who paid for my wedding dress tax. I didn't know if it was on the sidewalk at home, in the Uber, at my house. We had to have a neighbor who we didn't know that well, who we gave, thank God, an emergency key to, go to our house and search for it. He found it under my bed. So there's that too. Okay, so the next day, it's the day of the rehearsal dinner, day before my wedding. I decide I've had it and I'm going to go do a sit-in at the airport in Verona. I'm like, these ladies have got to help me. We decided at some point the most logical thing that would have happened to the bags is that they would have left them in Rome. So we're like, we're just on this Rome kick. We get to the airport in Verona and the little help desk has a sign that says it's closed until like 2 p.m. and it's like 10 a.m. I can hear the girls who were running it, who were there the day before, I can hear them behind it. So I started knocking. No one's answering. Knocking. No one's answering. So I'm like, okay. I just sit down on the floor and start calling Delta and Alitalia again. And then I do the most logical thing I could think of, and I ask the internet for help. I go on Twitter and I tweet the reference number of my case and Delta and Alitalia, and I ask everyone to start tweeting them because they're gonna ruin my wedding if they don't help me. And let me tell you, Twitter delivered. I love each and every person people started yelling at Delta and Alitalia, and I'm sitting there causing a ruckus. We're calling. We get to the point where they answer the phone, customer service, and they're like, we know who she is. We don't know where the suitcases are. Well, I keep banging on the door at the airport. Hours go by of this, and they finally open the window. And the lady is so fed up. By the way, like, they don't speak English very well. We are not communicating, but they know what's going on. I'm just like, please call Rome. Please call Rome. Call Rome from your phone, not mine. No one wants to talk to me. They don't care. They don't care. These girls are like, get out. We're not calling Rome. Like, they will let you know when your suitcase is found. I start crying hysterically, and one of them finds it in her heart. She takes her cell phone. She picks up the phone. She calls someone in Rome. She comes out from their little office and hands my husband the phone. It is a person who is at the airport. And she says to him, I know what's going on. I am a human. I get it. I'm going to go look for the suitcase. We stay on hold. She comes back. They found both suitcases in a giant corral of suitcases just sitting in Rome, waiting to be found. God knows when. Then we have to get them from Rome to Verona. They put them on the next flight out, okay? Fast forward. Suitcases come. It is like 4 o'clock, and I think we're leaving for the rehearsal dinner at like 5. I rip open the suitcases in the lobby of the hotel. I give them my dress that I'm going to wear that night for the rehearsal dinner. They steam it, give it back to me fast enough for me to get it on my body. It is still damp. We roll out to the rehearsal dinner. I'm literally out of breath. This story is so stressful. Okay, so we have the rehearsal dinner. It's beautiful. I love it. It's overlooking the city. Things are going great. We think we've turned it around. Next morning comes. I get my hair done at a salon at the hotel by people who don't speak English. Nice to meet you. Here's my hair. I didn't have inspiration photos. I had nothing. I showed them my dress. They did my hair. It turns out spectacular. I love my hair. This is great. I have a nice little breakfast, a bunch of donuts that I saw like in a buffet somewhere. Yay. I do my own makeup for the wedding. Unfortunately, it's very 2016 makeup. I don't need to further explain that, but there are some unfortunate errors that were made. But I am chilling. I'm listening to the Beach Boys and the Eagles, and we're in my giant, beautiful hotel room, and people are coming in and out. I'm completely relaxed. And we have our photographer with us. It comes time that we're going to leave in like an hour, but my husband is ready. He's downstairs, and I'm like, great. I just need to get dressed. This is going fantastic. I don't have any nerves. I feel this is a miracle, by the way. I have raging panic and anxiety. So we go to put my dress on. My dress, this is very important. I gave it to my mother when we arrived because I didn't want my husband to see it. Mom, put this in your fucking closet. You have one job. I love you. I know you're gonna watch this, but you had one job. I need to talk faster, but I have like PTSD. So we zip up the dress. Beautiful, gorgeous, love it. Couldn't be happier, worth every penny. I had a custom collar made from the lace of the dress, the specific lace to match. This thing also cost me more than a house. Beautiful collar. Can't find it. Mom, where's the collar that goes with my dress? I didn't touch it. Okay, well, it's not there. It's not there. It did arrive with the dress. I saw it, but it's gone. And at this point, I melt down because I've had it. I'm done. I'm done with this wedding. I'm done. I'm over it. I'm not getting married. I lose my shit. I turn into Satan, and I am screaming. My sister, by the way, is filming all of this and Snapchatting it. Thank you. I am screaming at my mom. We get the hotel concierge involved. We think maybe it somehow like got put into the laundry room. They flip my hotel room. They flip my mom's hotel room. I'm telling you, we are ripping sheets off the mattress. They're going through the laundry at the hotel. I am losing my mind. They're sending in one person at a time going, okay, the light's starting to change. We are now like an hour past when we were supposed to start photos. And I'm like, I don't care. I'm not going. I'm not going. I'm not going. F everyone. And it gets to the point where people are starting to panic and they're like, okay, we have to go. We're not gonna be able to take pictures. You're like, are you getting married or not? Well, at some point, my best friend, Megan, comes back in the room. We see, I had worn to the rehearsal dinner a halter like bralette that was kind of like lacy, right? Okay. So Jesus himself must have sent this idea down to one of us, but we take little nail scissors. We cut the bra here and here. I had body tape. We took and put the bra around my neck, secured it with body tape, roll out. This is it, by the way. You want to see the original? Because we do find it, but you're gonna have to wait for that. Are you serious? So I wore a bra around my neck on my wedding day. True story. We roll out, we take insanely stunning pictures, and we get to the venue. God, I feel like I'm still, we're not done yet, unfortunately, but I think we're really out of the woods at this point. My mom and I are not talking, but I think we're out of the woods. Oh my God, I have 1 minute. Okay, we get to the venue and the ladies at the venue are lovely. They're like, well, let's just steam your dress out really quickly because it got wrinkled from the ride there. They take an iron that looks like it's from 1842. They start steaming the dress. Guess what? 2 like globs that look like bacon grease fall down onto the front center of my dress. Everyone's freaking out. I have brown spots on my dress. They go, we're gonna take care of this. They go get a cleaner. They're blotting it out. They clean it. It bleaches. It bleaches. It bleaches the dress. You know what? I said, I don't give a flying shit. I don't care. We're here. We made it. We did this. And I went on to have the most epic night of my life. I loved my wedding. Everything happens for a reason. We made it. This is the end of this story. We had a beautiful honeymoon for 2 weeks in Europe, and I don't know, we lived happily ever after. Now we have 2 kids and we're almost 10 years married. This is part 3 of my wedding disaster story. If you didn't watch parts 1 and 2, go do that first. Okay, so the collar. Yes, the collar. What happened to the collar? Okay, this is, again, the next day. We all take the train to Venice for just a day. The story's low-key giving me hives. Do you see this? The story giving me hives. We go to Venice, we find this adorable pizzeria, and we're all eating pizza. I'm facing my mother, and I get a Snapchat from my cousin. It is a bottle of whiskey from this distillery in Park City that she had just unwrapped. Somehow, this was wrapped around the bottle, wrapped up with the bottle, given to my cousin, who flew the next day to England. Mom, we're legitimately not allowed to talk about this story because my mom gets sensitive. Mom, you built my wedding with your own 2 hands. I'm not mad at you. And this is what she does the next day. In front of everyone, I play the Snapchat. This is my mom. She's got her glass of Chardonnay, her pizza. She goes like this. And all was forgiven. So, once more. Custom collar. A frayed bralette that I wore around my neck my entire wedding. And honestly, it's kind of perfect. So, that's it. That's the story. We made it.
All right, story time. This story is about the time that a really good family friend tried to break in on me in the middle of the night when my husband was out of town for the weekend. So, let me tell you the story. So the friend we're going to call Tom, like peeping Tom. And Tom was a great friend, okay? Like when I say Tom came over every weekend, for a little over a year, almost every weekend, Tom was at our house, and he would just come hang out. It would just be me, my husband. Sometimes there'd be other people, sometimes not. Sometimes Tom would bring a friend, sometimes not. But either way, we were extremely close with Tom, and he hung out at our house all the time. Now, keep in mind, I got married at 19, so this was when I was like 19 and 20 and 21 years old that we were all hanging out, having a good time in our home with Tom around. Well, one evening, as a large group, we all went out, I think to a pool hall or something. I don't even remember, but we go out, and he was very drunk. My husband asked me to go to the bar to get him a drink while it was pool, because he was playing pool, and he was like, hey, while I'm finishing this game, do you mind going and getting me another beer? So I did. I went over to the bar, I got him a beer, and Tom was at the bar.
also getting himself another drink. So while we're standing there, together, just kind of shooting the shit and waiting on the bartender, Tom looks at me and says, I need to tell you something. It's been weighing on me heavily. And I'm like, oh, what is it? What's wrong? And he was like, I'm madly in love with you. And I'm having a really hard time, being in your presence because I've just grown so fond of you and I'm in love with you. I was like, oh boy. So I ended up, saying, you know what? I don't feel the same way about you. You're a good friend. You've obviously been drinking and probably might even be saying things that you don't mean right now. So I promise you this. I'm not going to tell Chuck about this. Chuck was my husband. I'm like, I'm not going to tell Chuck about this. There's no reason to like cause a big stink about anything. Thank you for telling me how you feel. And I don't feel the same way. I thought I handled the situation. And I decided at that point to do just that, not tell my husband about any of that conversation. So after that weekend, guess who stopped coming over? Tom. Guess who stopped calling and returning my husband's phone calls? Tom. Guess who acted dumb and like she didn't know shit about Shinola? Me. I was like, yep, I know nothing. I don't know where Tom is. That's kind of weird. I mean, that's strange. I don't know. Because again, I didn't want to cause a stink. Nothing had happened. There was nothing for me to tell. It was just like he confided something into me and I'd let it go. Well, about a year, maybe close to a year goes by. No mention or scene of Tom at all. And I ended up getting pregnant and I was expecting our first child. I was in my first trimester, and my husband goes on this little trip, a weekend trip. Well, while he's gone, at about 4 o'clock on Saturday, I had 2 dogs at the time, and they were just raising Cain about going outside. This was so not like them. Our property at the time, it had a fenced-in backyard, and it was a chain link fence. And the chain link fence backed up to this property that just kind of like dropped off in this huge ravine. And when you got to the bottom of the ravine, you were in a parking lot of Wendy's and some other, like stores because it butted up to a highway. And so if you were to like come into my back property, you would have to literally like climb a steep ravine that was full of like brush and weeds and all kinds of things, climb up, and then you would be at this landing where my back fence line was. So evidently Tom, he made that little trip around 4 o'clock in the afternoon to the back of my property. Well, my dogs would hear him and they would run to the back of the fence line and bark and raise hell, and then they would just stop. So I'm like, they're probably back there barking at little rabbits because there were wild rabbits that lived back in that brush and other kind of animals, and the dogs sometimes would go back there and be all, pissy with the animals. So that's what I was thinking it was. I didn't think anything of it. And time went on throughout the evening, and still my dogs would just be hanging out, and then all of a sudden they'd go to the sliding glass door barking. I'd open it up and they'd run straight to the fence line, to the same spot every single time. And they did this for a couple of hours. And so, but then when they would get to the fence, they would just stop. They would stop barking and stop raising hell, and then they would just kind of turn around and come back. And I was like, so anyway, I'm 22 years old. I'm naive. I think there's animals back there. And then it started getting dark. And as it started getting dark, then I could start seeing like shadows of things. So it was like the ravine and people's, like, I could see a person, what I thought was a person. It was kind of like maybe a person's head. And it was kind of like they would peek up and you could see them like looking around and doing this. But all I would see is like from here up a shadow or a silhouette of a person. And it could have been a dog, it could have been an animal, it could have been a person. My gut was telling me that's a person. But there's no way I was going to accept that there was a person back there, because my mind didn't want to hear that. So I let it go. I continued all evening to let it go. And because the dogs would stop and then turn around and come back, I thought, well, there's no threat. This is in my head. I'm being paranoid because my husband's out of town and I'm a scaredy cat. So that's where I went all night with this. So then I take a shower and I get out and I go in my room. And at the time we were painting, doing some interior painting, and we had taken the blinds and the drapes off of the window in my master bedroom. And my house was on a slab, so my master bedroom was on main level. And we had vinyl siding, so anything that was going on outside on the house itself, I could hear it. So I ended up getting in bed, and I was looking straight ahead at the TV. Well, on the wall to my left was my windows, and it was to the backyard. And again, no drapes, no blinds, doing some interior painting. So everything I did in that bedroom while I was getting out of the shower, getting my PJs on, all the things I was doing in the buff in my bedroom, Tom could see me. That's a terrible thought. I don't know. It's just awful. But anyway, Tom was out there all that time, and lo and behold, I'm in the bed and I could hear rustling on the side of my house. So I muted the TV, and I was being very, very stealth. I'm like, okay, let me hear what's going on. And then all of a sudden, I just moved my eyes to look at the window, not looking with my head, because I wanted to like be, inconspicuous with it. And as I heard something shh down the vinyl siding of my house, and I muted the TV and I cut my eyes, I saw someone. I saw the silhouette of someone, and they were going, like, looking in my window to see me. Well, my dog, Nebby, she was at the foot of my bed, and the second I saw the silhouette of the person, she saw that, and she lunged at my window. She went from the foot of my bed to the window in like 10 seconds flat, and she was raising hell at the window. And that evidently spooked Tom. Tom runs off. I had a phone on the headboard of my bed, so I called 911. I'm sitting in the bed freaking out, calling 911, and I wasn't moving out of that bed until 911 the police were on my doorstep. So they show up, I get myself together, I pack my bags, and I go to my parents' house for the weekend, because I'm telling you who's not staying in her house, me. Because when the cops got there, we go outside in the back, and there was a door entering in my house from the back side, and then sliding glass doors from the other side of the house coming in. There was a crowbar indention where someone had tried to actually pry the door open. That was Tom. And I think what had happened when I play this out in my head, I think I'm at the end of part 1. Meet me at part 2. Okay, so part 2. I walk the property with the police to make sure, what's going on back there. And the back door to the house there was damage where he had tried to pry it open. So I think what he did was he was trying to open the door, but he was making too much noise. So he slid down the side of my house to peek in my window to see if I heard him, to see if I'm still hanging out, or if he could continue to try. Pretty sure that's what happened. Thank God he didn't get in the house, because God only knows what he would have done to me. I have no idea. And I would have never, let me tell you, never in a million years would I have thought that Tom would have been capable of anything like that at all. Such a nice guy. Would have never thought about him harming me or anybody. Now you're like, so how do you know it was Tom? Let me tell you this. I never saw him. I saw shadows and silhouettes of him. When I saw in the window, I knew it was him. That was the first person that popped in my brain, was Tom. Why did I think about Tom? All I saw was a silhouette of a face. I did not see clearly any person whatsoever, but I knew it was him. I would say that I packed and I left, and I did not say anything to anybody. I told my parents when I got there that I felt like I knew who it was, that it was really just weird that my brain just keeps going to this one person. And so, of course, I'm telling my husband who's out of town, like, holy hell, you need to come home. This happened to me. I'm at my parents' house. I'm freaking out. Like, I could have been killed. Oh my God. And in the conversation, I told him, I said, listen, I'm going to tell you this. And I don't know why I never told you this before, but I'm going to tell you now. I think this was Tom. And my husband says, you've got to be kidding me. I ran into him on Friday. And I told him I was going out of town. And I told him that it's been a long time since we saw each other and that we needed to get together sometime soon. And that you were pregnant and we were expecting a baby. And that I was going to be going out of town this weekend. And that was, I guess, it was definitely Tom. And I knew it. I knew it just by seeing the shadow of his face. And at that point, I had to be like, oh, by the way, the last time we all hung out with Tom, he told me that he loved me and that he was having a hard time being in my presence without being able to be with me, yada, 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 all of those things. And I'm so sorry I didn't tell you this. I should have. I guess I should have, considering what just happened. And that was like a whole thing, you know. Of course, my husband wasn't mad at me because nothing happened. He totally was like, what the heck? But we all at that moment knew that what I suspected was real. It really was him. And that was 28 years ago. I never heard from him again. I've never seen him. I know nothing about this guy. So, the moral of this story is always go with your gut. I should have said that there was somebody out there in the property way before they actually were, you know, in my window like this, hours and hours later. Always go with your gut whenever you feel like you see somebody or saw someone do something. I just knew it was him. I think back, you know, like some of the things I think about is like when you're in school and you're like in the hallway and you're like way, way, way at the end of the hallway and you just see far as you can down the other hallway and you see like a glimpse of a person, you know, like turning the corner and all you see is like a quick glimpse of like their back leg and their side arm and you immediately know who it is. You didn't see their face, but you know that was so-and-so. That's who that was in my window. It was Tom. Tom could have killed me. Tom could have raped me. Tom could have done lots of things to me. I also should have told my husband about that story, about what had happened that night at the pool hall, because had he ran into Tom as he did, he probably would have not told him things that he told him, and he would have known that there was potential risk involved in that knowledge. So I say all of this to just say, you know, be safe. Don't trust anybody. You never know what someone's capable of. And yeah, crazies out there, total crazies. Have a good day. Stay safe.
Guys, buckle up. It's going to be a long one. I'm going to break it into parts here. But I want to say first that I am going to be referring to the person that we took in as a child, that was not a child. I'm going to refer to her as Sophia. That's how we knew her. It's not her legal name, so I feel okay using it. I also want to say that I will be, although I will be telling the entire story, obviously this is a 6-year story. I'm not going to tell every detail. And there are going to be parts of it that I'm going to brush over a little bit because there's some legal parts that are still potentially going on. I need my sunglasses. My husband's sunglasses are just going to have to do because I cannot find mine. All right, so back up to how I met her. I run a nonprofit for kids in foster care and kids that are just in crisis in general. And we were hosting a Halloween event, and a friend of mine who's a high school teacher, had a student that was a new student to the school, and she was saying that this student was very interested in volunteering with me, and if she could come over, and obviously volunteer. So she showed up, and this was October of 2019. She showed up at our Halloween event and helped me out. And for anybody who's familiar with a kid with trauma, sometimes they do what's called trauma dumping, and they literally like word vomit their entire history to you within the first 5 minutes of meeting you, and they tell you like really inappropriate details to things, and that's what she did. So it wasn't totally shocking to me. It was shocking to me what she was saying, but it was not shocking to me that this girl was just literally unloading these details. Got to know her more. I kind of became a mentor for her. She was placed with a single man. And again, I'm going to go into more detail of how that all even came about and everything in part 2 when I discuss kind of the story more of what she was sharing. But she was placed with this single man that I know, again, seems like it should raise a lot of red flags, but if anybody's familiar with foster care, they know that that's not super shocking. Like, they're just going to place a kid where they can place a kid. So the fact that a trafficking survivor was placed with a single man isn't that far out of the realm of possibility. So she was placed with this man. She would say like these just horrible things, not abuse, but just neglectful and kind of inappropriate when it comes to a trafficking survivor kind of things were happening in that house, which by the way were all false and all completely untrue. But she was saying these things were happening in the house. We ended up putting a cot in our finished basement for her so that she could stay over some nights, so she was more comfortable, and she just eventually, we asked if she wanted to move in. We are our family is kind of a mixed family. Our kids are a combination of biological, adopted, and foster, so it's not completely abnormal for us to have a new kid in our house. My kids didn't really think much of it. So I did have a daughter who was the same age that Sophia was claiming to be at the time as well. She ended up moving in, and just to give you a quick time frame so you understand how fast this actually progressed. Early October of 2019 was the event, and over Christmas break of school is when she moved in with us. So this was very, very quick.
No, can I just get a large Diet Coke?
Again, a summary of it, she moved in with us end of the year 2019 as a quote-unquote junior in high school. And yes, this means she attended high school voluntarily more than once. Junior in high school, and we basically saw her through her college. It basically all came out, it all fully came out right after her college graduation, but a lot of it was coming out in parts right before her college graduation.
Thank you.
How I keep going. Crispy Diet Coke. So that's where I'm going to end part 1 for now, and then part 2 is going to be more of the story that she was telling us of what her past was. So stay tuned for that. Hopefully it'll post tomorrow.
Hear me out. I always used to see those family channels on YouTube, and I'm like, that's so weird. Like, why would you make your kids do that? And then I saw how much they make, and I said, I'm 34 weeks today. Bitch, fuck them kids. I don't even like kids. If I'm in a Lambo, story me.
Okay. Who is ready for part 2? So this is part 2 of the story of the girl named Sophia that we took in, who was claiming to be a teenager when in fact she was in her mid-20s. She also claimed to be a trafficking survivor, which she was not. I promise there's a ton of proof. I'm happy to share all that with you as we get into that part of it. I do have to kind of go in order, otherwise it gets way too confusing to try to explain the story. Again, this happened over 6 years, so I'm trying to consolidate and trying to stay in order. So I think for this next section, it's going to be best for me to try to tell her story, the story that she told us of what her past and her life story was. I think that's a natural next step so that you guys can understand. I explained in the first part how she got to us, but understanding her story also helps answer some of those questions on how she got to us, because some of the questions that I got were, you know, why didn't I talk to the social worker? Or, you know, how did I talk to the foster parent? And that's not a legitimate way, just kind of some more questions about procedure. And I promise it all makes sense once you understand her story and how she got to us according to her story. You will see yet another pattern of it starts with a story, usually because she stole it from somebody else. It sounds legitimate, so therefore she gets hooked up with an organization or a group. That group then she uses as her backing to then get to the next person she's going to take advantage of, and she's able to get the backing from that group, which all started from a lie. And the more she builds, before you know it, she's got 5 groups that she's working with, legitimate, great organizations that she's working with, that all have just believed the previous. And so it makes her story seem very legitimate, and you don't question a lot because she's coming to you with all of this backing in place. So I promise that will be explained. The other part was a lot of confusion about documentation. First, I just wanted to say you can actually, in the United States, any child is able to register for school through the McKinney-Vento Act, which means they don't need documentation. But I am going to explain at the end of this one, excuse me, a little bit more about the documentation and what she had and did not have and what she was able to get. So hopefully that will answer a lot of those questions too. And again, I promise you, I am not trying to play a victim here. I'm just telling a story that I haven't had to think about now for a little bit over a year. That was my way to heal, and now I'm just telling it as a story. It's something that happened. I'm not asking for sympathy from it. Take with it what you want. It's an interesting story. It's a story that I'm still shocked that I lived. I'm shocked that is still going on. I'm even more shocked on how many comments that people were asking about other people, that obviously this is not an extremely unique situation, and it's pretty scary actually. But so yeah, part 2, like I said here, I'm going to focus on what her story to us was. Here's the story that she told us. She was raised in Oakland, California. She said mainly on the streets, but that sometimes they had kind of just junkie houses they would stay in. Sometimes they'd be in trap houses. Sometimes they would actually stay in a place for a little bit of time. She said she did a lot of roaming of the streets to, dumpster dive for food and that sort of thing. She just indicated it was a very rough upbringing. She also said that she was trafficked by her biological mom and her stepdad for as long as she can remember, from being a very, very little girl. She said that she was born intentionally to be trafficked. So she was born off the grid, which is, why she had no documentation, she said. So no birth certificate, no proof of age, no anything else. She said sometimes her parents would kind of loan her out to other people for a while to be trafficked, so there'd be times where she was not at home. She said her brother was sometimes involved in her sexual abuse, and that she also had an older sister. I'm going to come back to her because that's a very important part to the story. She also said that somewhere around age 11 or 12, she was trafficked out, and basically her parents just never came back and got her. So she went to a children's shelter in Oakland, and from there she said that she wanted to go to school. So she used that McKinney-Vento Act that I spoke about and was able to get herself registered as a freshman at school. So after, I think, about a year of being in school, it could have been a little bit less. I don't remember if she told me if she finished that full freshman year or not. I don't remember. She's still in the shelter. She said she would kind of stay some places sometimes with some other people, but then would go back to the shelter. She decided she wanted to try to get some documentation. So she found a pro bono lawyer, and was able to convince this person also that she had no documentation and that she needed to get some. She claims that she had no idea how old she was. She only had an estimate. She didn't know her birth date. And she said she had no way to contact her parents. And even if she did, she was terrified of them. And, again, if her story was true, this is all understandable, that didn't want to contact them to try to get documentation. So The lawyer worked to get a dental exam to try to get an estimate of age. They were able to give, I can't remember if she said a 3 or 5 year age range. I can't remember which one she had told us. But she said then when they went to court, again, she wasn't able to show any documentation of any sort of how old she was. She didn't have anything that said anything. So they basically went off the dental records. And she said that at the time, the judge, let's say the dental record said anywhere between 13 and, I think it was like 13 and 18, if I'm remembering correctly. Again, I could be a little bit off in some of these. I apologize. It was 7 years ago that the story started to be told. That the judge said that he was going to go ahead and just make her the oldest age possible so that she could not be in the foster care system or get out of the foster care system as soon as is possible. It's not completely unheard of, honestly. If you Google something like that, it has been done when they don't have documentation, that they choose usually the older date to try to kind of help them along. Again, other groups, before she got to me, many other groups believed this story, so who was I to doubt anything? She got a birth certificate at that point with a fake name on it, but the name that she was claiming to be, with a date of birth that made her, at that point in time, I believe it made her 17. I believe it made her 17, if my math is mathing. She, by the way, was still claiming to be 13, 14-ish, around there at this point in time. This is all going to get very confusing, but I promise it will get cleared up. So she's still claiming to be in that, let's just say 14-year-ish range.
Every night before I change into my pajamas, I open up my blinds, just to add a little bit of spice into my neighbors' lives. Hey yo neighbors! The show's about to begin!
So she's back at the shelter, and she sees some sort of an advertisement or a phone number or something about a trafficking survivor network. And she calls and she tells them that she's a trafficking survivor, tells her story. They seriously come and just pick her up. And they place her at what I kind of refer to as like a safe home type environment. It's really a group home, but it's, really private and kind of in secluded Northern California. So they place her there. They have like this in-house schooling type setup, which is pretty common in group homes. So she said that they would just sit and do packets all day, is how she described it. She really did not like being there. While there, she met one of the interns that worked there, and she really clung to this person. She right away, said this person was like her big sister and started calling her sister. And she convinced this person to try to like take custody of her, basically. So this person wasn't going to do that and was probably honestly too young to do that. But she called her dad here in Illinois to see if her dad would take guardianship of Sophia. And her dad agreed. I don't know how much convincing that took, but her dad agreed. I believe this entire thing was with the understanding that this intern was going to be kind of the primary caregiver for her, but technically that her dad would be the guardian because they all lived together. So, since Sophia was never actually in foster care out in California, and again, that story changed through the years as well, and I'll get into that later, but this is her initial story. So she came out here, she lived with this person and this person's dad. That is the house that we ended up taking her from. This person, though, the intern, didn't end up staying there. So she was gone a lot, and then she ended up moving out completely. So Sophia was kind of left with the dad, who wasn't around often, and just the stories that she would say that he wasn't doing anything inappropriate whatsoever. He was totally fine, but the stories that she was saying was just basic things that were making her uncomfortable. And again, from a trafficking survivor perspective, yeah, some of these behaviors would have made her uncomfortable, and it was understandable, which is why we were trying to give her an environment maybe that made her a little bit more comfortable. And all she kept talking about is she just wanted a family, and all understandable things. While she was there, she got hooked up with an extremely well-known, respected trafficking organization, anti-trafficking organization in Chicago, and she was able to get a caseworker from there. She also then connected with a second anti-trafficking organization, which she had some connections with as well. So the first anti-trafficking group was able to get her a bunch of resources. She was able to get therapy through them. She was able just a whole bunch of things. So by the time I met her, she had already been working with a trafficking group, an anti-trafficking group out in California, was in an anti-trafficking group home, and then she had already had a local Chicago caseworker who I spoke to at length about her. So when she was moving in with us, or when we were talking about her even moving in with us, yes, I spoke to what she was calling her sister, who was the intern at the group home, at length. I spoke to her caseworker in Chicago. I spoke to the anti-trafficking group executive director, actually, out in California. I spoke to as many people as I possibly could. And again, all of those groups legitimize her story. So you'll see a lot of patterns and a lot of things happening, but there was no reason to question anything at the time. Okay, the last thing that I wanted to clarify a little bit more was about the actual birth certificate and the documentation. So as I said before, she was undocumented and then was able to get a birth certificate that gave her a date of birth and a name. So by the time she moved in with us, that birth certificate stated that she was 19. However, she was still claiming to us to be 16. Again, because of how she explained it, because of how she said the judge, gave her the older date. The corroboration of her story with the other anti-trafficking group in California, as well as the one in Chicago, and the family that she was living with, it seemed wrong for us to question that. It's also not completely uncommon for, like I said, a person who is a survivor to not be documented or not be able to get their documentation, and it's not unheard of for age to be determined off of dental, and it's not unheard of for a judge to pick the oldest date possible in that range. So, it all added up. While she was with us, though, we felt bad because we tried not to really tell anybody that her birth certificate said she was 19, because we really did believe she was 16. School knew. School very much treated her like she was 16. Everybody in her support system treated her as if she were 16, because we all believed her. And that's a large group of support. That's therapists and caseworkers, and everybody truly believed that she was 16. Okay, the last thing that I wanted to clarify a little bit more was about the actual birth certificate and the documentation. So as I said before, she was undocumented and then was able to get a birth certificate that gave her a date of birth and a name. So by the time she moved in with us, that birth certificate stated that she was 19. However, she was still claiming to us to be 16. Again, because of how she explained it, because of how she said the judge, gave her the older date. The corroboration of her story with the other anti-trafficking group in California, as well as the one in Chicago, and the family that she was living with, it seemed wrong for us to question that. It's also not completely uncommon for, like I said, a person who is a survivor to not be documented or not be able to get their documentation, and it's not unheard of for age to be determined off of dental, and it's not unheard of for a judge to pick the oldest date possible in that range. So, you know, it all added up. While she was with us, though, we felt bad because we tried not to really tell anybody that her birth certificate said she was 19, because we really did believe she was 16. School knew. School very much treated her like she was 16. Everybody in her support system treated her as if she were 16, because we all believed her. And that's a large group of support. That's therapists and caseworkers, and everybody truly believed that she was 16. So I should probably add in that legal birth certificate of her saying 19, that also was not true. She was actually 24. Yes, 24, I believe, at that time. So 23, 24. I could be off on that just a little bit, but not 19. That all being said, we did feel that her having a birth certificate that did not reflect the age that we believed she was just something else that was kind of against her. So we tried while she was here to get that corrected for her. We got an attorney. We were able to get a judge to get her a new birth certificate that said that she was not 19, that birth certificate was that birth certificate that she received in California was wrong. The kicker of it is then that she turned out to not be 16 when she moved into us, but that she was 15 is what this affidavit was saying. Again, all of this is going to come out later. I promise I will explain all of the technical detail and the legal side of all of this. I forgot to go back. One other part of her story that I said I'd go back to is she also used to say that she had an older sister. She told us that her older sister was killed by her parents in front of her. She kind of viewed it as a threat. She said she was very young when this happened, so she didn't remember a ton of detail, but she remembered enough, and I'm not going to describe what she claims she remembered. It's very important, because it's a very important part of this story to remember that, but she claims that her sister was killed in front of her. She claims that she was there and witnessed it. And that was just a huge part of things for her, that she very much grieved her sister. She had kind of built up like a fantasy, as she described it, as if her sister would have lived, her sister would have saved her, and kind of a lot built up about this older sister. So that will come into play for sure later, but I did want to add that in because it is a very important part of the story that she told. I'm not going to get into the discovery stuff yet, but just to jump ahead for all of you, she is actually, so the age that she's would be claiming to be right now is 21. She's actually 28. She was never trafficked. I have spoken at length with her parents. They're very nice people. They are the biggest victims of all of this out of everyone. She has victimized a lot of families, a lot of organizations. She has gotten a lot of money, and I will go into all of that as well. A lot of illegal things, but this was not her first story she was telling. She just found the trafficking story, and it really stuck for her. And I think she figured out people don't question it, they just help. And that's what kind of ended up happening. She was able to get everything she needed by sticking with the story. So I will get working on the next one, I promise. I've still got to determine how I'm going to break up that content, but I will be back as soon as possible. Let me know if you guys have any questions, and I'll see you.